Memory transcription subject. Slanek. Venlo civilian. Date. Standardized human time. February 20th, 2137. The lack of ventilation inside the statue rendered it quite stuffy, which led to me donning an environmental suit with internal cooling. It wouldn't be ideal if my panting gave away that there was someone inside the statue. The icon of Nikonus was nearly double his actual height, and even had him holding a flamethrower. The Dorton had a sense of humor, I give them that. Whatever Koji passed along to her people, the statue had been constructed hastily, and my plan was greenlit. The workmanship looked decent, in spite of the condensed time frame. The Kolshians were receptive to the homogeneity's offer to return to the fold, not knowing hidden venom was behind the talks. The Dorton had a better idea than my motion sensor. They disguised a camera into the base, placing other knobs around it to conceal it. I tested the escape door before we departed. There was just enough room for me to kneel and spring out from a crouched position. I was also given a backup firearm to avoid any technical issues. The moment of truth came when Arthur's gunships greeted us above world, scanning us with sensors. The masking technology obfuscated my signature enough, since the hidden compartment was painted with special materials that prevented light from passing through. I had peeked at my camera screen when the ship's crew disembarked, and the Dorton was shown inside the Federation Hall under careful watch. The Kolshians had quadrupled the amount of guards on site, with several looking down from newly built watchtowers.
"What is this?"
a Kolshian soldier demanded, as Ambassador Koji pushed the statue down a cargo ramp. I had needed to wedge myself between the walls to keep from sliding.
"Shit! Is that Nikonus? It's a striking likeness."
Koji flapped her wings in agreement. "Yes, it's a gift as part of our peace offering. We would appreciate if you could display it somewhere, and allow us to show it to your leader as part of our humble apology."
I'm sure there's room for it in the garden, though it wasn't authorized before."
"Is this offering not good enough for the Commonwealth? Dorton artists didn't do well enough? I thought we were here to reunite our peoples, not to be insulted and spat at."
Routine protocol could certainly be waived if Nikonus deems fit. I meant no offense. We'll place it out in the garden and you can go right in to see the High Chief."
"Very well. I expect the Federation to respect our contributions in light of the impact we have to the war. We'll follow your pal." I watched with bated breath as Koji was escorted inside the hall. The Kolshians weren't that trusting, giving it a lengthy scan that raised my hackles. One soldier rapped on Nikonus' chest above, finally seeming content when it didn't sound hollow. Thankfully, my compartment was tucked below the bulk of the statue. As cramped as it was, the Dorton made a wise decision to minimize the space taken up by me. It lowered my risk of detection and limited the amount of off-putting cues that would be visible. The statue was moved onto a large dolly, with several Kolshian soldiers exerting themselves to push it across the clean sidewalks. Blood hummed in my veins as I fantasized about popping out now and shooting these grunts at point-blank range. With the hour of my plan in sight, the fear and doubts had evaporated. I was excited for the deliverance of sweet revenge, for me, for Marcel, and for every Venlo affected by the Federation. However, my wrath had to be saved for the one who deserved a summary execution. I had plenty of time to think, hours without any stimuli, other than listening to guard chatter and surveying my surroundings. My life had gone downhill in a hurry. I ruined the only real friendship I ever had, and I erased my fear at the cost of my soul. The humans and I had no idea what we were awakening from our shaky beginnings down this path. When Nikonus fell at my claws, if I was taken with him, 2 monsters would be killed. This was the only way to be free of the Federation's tampering, once and for all.
Nikonus is the one at the helm of the war, who plans to forcibly cure and use humanity. He gave the orders, from below and every other battle, and laughed about the centuries of torment for other races. He'll do anything for power. He is pure evil, lacking respect for nature or any other societies. This would be my final act to protect humanity and Venlo kind.
I could still hear despondent words in Marcel's voice, demanding an account for what I'd done, but I had the conviction to pep myself up. The Durtons saw the wisdom in my plan, so while Koji had called it deranged, there must be merit to why I was doing it. The galaxy would be a better place without Nikonos drawing breath. I repeated the mantra to myself and ruminated on how good it had felt to execute the Kolshian scientist at below. Hours replaying that moment worked me into a fervor. Where is Koji? I thought to myself. How long is that Durton going to dawdle inside? She was supposed to bring Nikonos here. You think he'd want to see the stupid statue? Even fixating on my impulses wasn't enough to stave off boredom, stuck in an uncomfortable suit and a cramped space. As I was half contemplating going on the prowl, seeking out the chief, distant chatter finally hit my ears. It had gone from daylight to an eerie dusk, with faint illumination falling on curated tears flowers from the sinking sun. Koji and Nikonos' voices floated behind me. The Durton ambassador to humanity was the perfect figure to renounce Earth and make amends. The duo were laughing like old buddies, seeming to mock Terrans. I doubted Koji had to fake a word she said. Was shocked to learn humans groomed themselves, the Durton was saying. They trim those tiny patches of hair, paint their claws, and polish their canines. Predators dolling themselves up. It's hilarious. Nikonos clasped his tentacles behind his back. In a predator's mind, they truly think they're sapient. We know better, of course. There might be a tiny bit of credence to higher cognition in humans, but it's minimal. Flesh-eating beasts figured out germ theory, unlike the Yotl. Well, it's fortunate those human monstrosities bathe, or they'd smell of blood and carcasses. Just to not smell more rancorous than they already do with that sweat. They're dripping in it. I've seen it pool onto their armpits, and it's fucking gross. We never wanted to be friends with them. Remind me why I shouldn't aim for Koji after Nikonos. The way she talks about Terrans is disgusting. She's lucky we have the same enemy. The Durton was positioned out of reach of Nikonos, with guards keeping the duo apart. I grimaced when the Kolshian leader stopped a hearty distance from the statue, admiring it from afar. He inspected it for several seconds, before returning his focus to the avian. Curses splitted from my mind. I had thought that he'd view it from every angle, and be drawn in by his own towering image. It represented the power he wished to lord over others, as well as the fawning attention he craved. What do you think? Koji prodded. Nikonos started to turn away from it. It's satisfactory, but I'm not sure it will help our image to keep this around. Are you joking? It's an expression of adoration from an independent party who regrets their time outside the Federation. It's not like you built it. Please, humour me and appreciate the craftsmanship. Come close. Look in the knobs on the base. They're carved with different flora from Arthur. The Durton trotted forward, without waiting for Nikonos' response, and I noticed the Kolshian leader curl his lip with a bit of irritation. He trailed after the avian, offering a cursory glance at a knob to appease her. The grey avian was stationed right in front of the camera, and the escape hatch, though she was trying to coax Nikonos into position. I might have to go for a suboptimal ambush. Feel the quality materials and the level of detail. I want you to appreciate it, Chief. Give me some interest. We don't give gifts lightly. Worried the press are going to catch you? Koji squawked. Nikonos trudged up with reluctance, and the daughter moved out of the way so he could take her place. The indigo skin containing his violet blood, and the bulbous, sickly orange eyes harbouring evil intent were right before me. This was the time to strike, given that Koji had been instrumental in luring the Kolshian to this spot. My anger toward her eased a bit. I ensured that my paws were ready on the gun, and wrapped my tail around the statue's release lever. With a single, unhesitating tug, the assassination attempt was set in motion. After dreaming about this moment for hours, all that rushed through my mind now was Skalga and Earth, my two homes. I thought about Genzi and her tears at my brother's funeral. Thanks to what I was about to do, she will be mourning her other son's death in no time. If Marcel truly still cared for me, he would be grief-stricken too. This choice of mine was going to hurt the people I loved, yet I still had the resolve to move forward. The door slid open, and I lunged toward the Kolshian that was mere feet away. What the?
Nicholas gasped out a few words, and alarm flashed in his eyes. Before his guards could even draw their weapons, I'd gotten off several trigger pulls into his center of mass. Violet blood gushed from the wounds, but I made sure I kept pulling to ensure the job was done. The Kolchian leader crumpled to the ground, while Kochi had taken to the skies in a hasty escape. I landed on all fours, shoving the barrel into his temple. Guards had drawn their weapons, and I could hear shots being fired toward me. Pain seared through my stomach, nearly blinding out all sensory input, but I managed to depress the trigger again. Brain matter spurted over my wrists as another bullet struck me in the leg. My crooked limb gave way underneath me, and as I fell, more shots whizzed by where my head had been. Nicholas was splayed behind me, lying in a pool of his own blood, his bulging eyes cold and lifeless. I could tell from his vacant gaze that he was gone. I'd done what I set out to do. The wicked tyrant, the face of the empire that terrorized every world they came across, was dead. I'm okay with being executed now. My sacrifice will be worth it, and bring humanity one step closer to demolishing the Federation. I still clutched my gun as I gasped in pain on the ground. Orange blood was dripping onto the grass, matting my stomach fur with sticky fluids. I managed to raise the weapon and fire a shot at a guard. It clipped him in the shoulder, though the gash unfortunately didn't cripple him. More soldiers were rushing to the scene, focused on me from all directions. I tried to fire again, but my magazine came up empty, with my bullets spent on the Nicholas. My agency was diminishing, as rapid blood loss threatened to send my system into shock. "Cease fire! That's Slanek! Take him alive!" a commander shouted. Kolchians rushed to stand over me and kept their guns pointed at me. Medics checked on the Nicholas first, finding him lacking a pulse. At an officer's order, they turned their focus to me. With my mission complete, I was ready to put an end to the thoughts that plagued me. I felt surprisingly calm about bleeding out in the hall's glamorous garden. Tentacles got to work packing my wounds and prepping me for transit. I clawed feebly toward their eyes, though my paw was swatted back with ease. "Fuck you," I spluttered. My life flashed before my eyes as I laid there staring up at the sky. There was a lot of blood, and I could tell that without looking. I never planned on making it out alive, and clearly Kochi hadn't concerned herself with my escape either. I stopped fighting and relaxed into the ancient force sinking its grip into me. A cold, involuntary wave tugged me down to unconsciousness as I fell further away from all senses and thought. Harsh light filtered into my eyes as I slowly came to in a laboratory. It wasn't clear how long I'd been out, but I still felt disoriented. My wounds had been mended, and an IV was sticking into my arm. It could have been used for a blood transfusion. A sick feeling clasped my abdomen, realizing I was in Kolchian custody. Researchers were conferring with each other, clearly talking about me. Something in the air they exuded reminded me of that evil scientist, Navarus. The visuals in my periphery finally registered, as machinery I'd seen in the humans' anti-predator disease campaigns. This seemed like a facility, the reason Onzo had cautioned me against touting my diseased mind. I tried to prompt my weak limbs to rise, but restraints strapped me to a table. The jangling sound alerted the Kolchians to my wakefulness, and a doctor skipped over with delight. I gulped nervously, though my throat was lacking in saliva. "Ah, you're awake. Now we can do our neurological scan and determine the exact areas that trigger Venlo aggression." The doctor pressed a few buttons, and the cot I was laying on rolled down a conveyor into a machine. "Researcher's log. We are commencing our initial survey of the assassin. I anticipate few difficulties breaking this Venlil. He only spent a few months with the Predators. Once re-education is complete, a docile Slanek will be an excellent example to our allies of why gentling and curing are necessary practices." My ears clamped flat with pure terror, listening to the hum of the machine. The Kolchians were scanning me to identify which parts of my brain they wanted to change, and then were likely to broadcast a before and after to demonstrate what an excellent job they'd done. I wasn't sure if the researcher had meant for me to overhear. Perhaps he thought it wouldn't make a difference whether I knew his intent. What if they convinced me to detest humans and go back to being meek prey? I didn't want that! Regardless of what they did to me, I'd hold out for the memory of Marcel.
I struggled against the restraints again, despite knowing it was useless. These monsters had me at their mercy, and given my role in the Connors' gruesome death, I imagined my treatment would be less than kind. Every ounce of my brain wished I had bled out in that garden, and that the tale ended just as Frankenstein's monster had perished. There wasn't supposed to be anything after the assassination was complete. I had to find some way to get out of here. The rest of my life suddenly seemed like an endless stretch of torment. I fell into a numb state of horror, realizing the unavoidable future in store for me. The personal sacrifices necessary to bring about the Connors' demise were higher than I had ever expected. The Colchians chuckled among themselves as they scanned the terrorized Vendal's brain for places to poke and prod. Hatred simmered in my veins, and I yearned to kill every last one of them. Yet, all the same, despite the burning rage that festered inside me, my deepest, all-consuming thought was that I missed my human. Memory stream terminates here. No further transcription data exists for this subject's neural signature.